Decisions are really important. Other decisions are minute, but you got to be smart about your decisions, right? And I don't mind people making dumb decisions, but it's when you make consistently the wrong decision over time, you don't learn your lesson, that it becomes a problem.
What's going on? This is Michael Barayev and Eric Chris. And today is Monday. And as you guys know, we spit fire on Monday. Every single Monday we come at you, we spit the truth and nothing but the truth. So today we're going to talk about decisions. Decisions. So Eric, how many decisions does a human make in a day? And what are decisions? And how do you make the right decisions? And how do some people make stupid decisions? So that's what we're going to talk about today really quickly. So, Eric, what is it, because you studied the brain, you studied psychology, psychiatry.
I'm a psychology.
You're a psychology,
like
and you
that?
study everything about the brain. So
Yeah.
tell me about decision making. Why do people make decisions? How do they make decisions? And how many decisions do people make in a day?
6 million decisions a day. No, well, we make a lot of decisions, right? Every little thing is a decision, right? Just moving a little bit is a decision. I made a decision to move back. Some decisions are really important. Other decisions are minute, but you got to be smart about your decisions, right? And I don't mind people making dumb decisions, but it's when you make consistently the wrong decision over time, you don't learn your lesson, that it becomes a problem.
So let me ask you a question before you finish answering that. Do you believe, this is something we'll have to maybe debate on.
Yeah, debate.
Let me ask you this. Do people have to make the right decisions, or do people have to make the decision and then make that decision the right decision?
Ooh, that's deep. I think that it's always difficult to predict the future, right? Hindsight is always 20/20. So you never know if a decision is going to be right before you make it. So what you have to get good at first is taking in all the information that the world gives you through your senses and your intuition, and then making the best decision based on the information that you have at hand. Then once you make the decision, you have to make that decision right, regardless of whether or not it was.
That's why I love you, Eric, because we're on the same page. I love that. You know what's crazy? We never spoke about that. I wanted to see, are you on my mental level or what? Because you always make a decision and then make the decision the right decision. So for example,
Well, I want to give you an example. Thank
Give
you
me an
very
example.
much. So I had a very big decision, a few times in the last couple of years. One was when I left my previous employment, our employer. And then I had another decision whether or not I was going to move to New York and work, very closely with Mr. Michael Barayev.
tell me I did a good job. Tell me I did a good job. Tell me I did a good job.
Well, listen.
Convince your ass. Come on, man. I'm a master
It was
salesman.
a great decision. However, it's not to say that had I moved, to Dallas, it would have been a bad decision. But I made the decision that I was going to make it right, regardless of whether or not.
But let me ask you a question. Do you think I made a decision before you came here? I made a big decision. I was like, I'm gonna get that guy.
Well, I made a decision for you to make this decision.
We both made decisions on each other. Decision. So let me ask you a question. Why do people make stupid decisions? And what is a stupid decision?
Well, I think there's a few things. Number one, either you don't have enough information at hand to make a smart decision. So I give an example. You take a right down a road, but little did you know that this road was, filled with killers and all these things. And had you known that, you probably wouldn't have taken a right. So it's always good to have as much knowledge and information as possible before you make a decision on the topics that surround that decision.
Now let me ask you a question. How much percent do you have to know to make the decision you're gonna make?
Well, it depends on risk versus reward. If I have a big reward versus small risk, it's okay to make that decision without that much information because the risk is very small, but the reward is very big. Now, if it's the opposite, where it's a very small reward, but a very big risk, then I want to know as much as physically possible.
How much percent would you say, like for example, like I'm studying real estate investing right now, okay? And let's say 100% of the information for me to make that decision, I would have to know 100% of that stuff, right? But what I learned from a mentor, not I see that number, but what do you think is that percentage that I need to know to be able to say, you know what, I'm ready to dive in to make that decision in real estate investing?
I mean, I believe in the 80-20 rule. I don't know if that really applies to this so much, but I think that as long as you're 80% sure of something, then you can jump in. I mean, I think life is full of risks that you have to take, right? Especially as a business owner, you've got to take some calculated risk. You're never gonna know 100%. You know, sometimes you hire someone and you're like, I don't know how that's gonna work out, and then sometimes you're like, wrong decision, I have to fire them, or right decision, best decision I ever made, and that's where the risk the risk versus reward plays into it. So,
I mean, I personally was told by a very close mentor of mine. He said, when you get 60-70% of the decision, like you have enough information, execute. I know you said 80. That's maybe because you're more of you don't take as much risk as I do. So some certain levels, you're more
conservative, a
little bit more conservative. Something I'm pretty like crazy and risky. Like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm doing that shit. Like sometimes, and you know what's crazy? I used to not be like that. I used to wait till I'm like 90% in the information and to execute. And as I started to get older a little bit, I said, you know what? Let me just make decisions based on 60-70% of the information I have and then execute. There's a lot of other people that make decisions based on 20% of the information, and that's what I call making stupid decisions. And that's when you start doing dumb stuff.
Here's the thing. Here's where it becomes really stupid, is if you do have the information, but you still make the decision anyway. For instance, I know for a fact there's murderers and killers, you know, if I take this road, but I'm still taking the fucking road anyway, right? And there's a lot of people who know that what they're doing is the wrong decision, but they still make it anyway. And that's a different type of decision, right? It's one thing if
we call that
ignorant.
In English, we call that a moron.
It's more off than more on.
Yeah. More off their head, right?
Yeah, so I would say that those are the two things. I mean, sometimes you don't know for sure, but you have something that's called intuition or your gut feeling of, you know, based on past experiences and based on your, you know, just your ability to read situations where you can understand something and make better predictions.
So let me ask you this. How do people gather the information and the intelligence to make those right decisions? What are some of those key steps that you would say that you have to make to gather that information? I know it's a hard question.
No. I want to say something that's related to that, but it's not exactly to answer that direct question. You have to be able to look in the future a little bit and have some common sense and say, if
common sense is not common.
Yeah, okay. So don't use common sense. Just do basically cause and effect. If I make this decision and I'm wrong, what are the consequences? If I'm right, what are the consequences? And what is everything in between? Because sometimes people just make decisions without thinking about what the consequences are, right?
Yep.
So I know that before I maybe explode in front of my team, I know subconsciously that making that decision is going to, the consequence of that is not worth the action itself. So you have to take a pause before you make big decisions, right? A lot of people are just reactive to the world. So I would say number one, pause. Right? Especially if it's a big decision. Now, should I go to McDonald's? Should I go to fucking, Burger King? You can make a quick decision there maybe, right? Should I roll over to my left? Should I roll over to my right? Should I look to my left, to my right? Those are small decisions. But the bigger decisions, you have to pause. You have to take a second. You know me, I don't always make quick decisions. If it's something impulsive, I can do it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? But if it's something that's going to have a big impact on my life or,
you want to make a qualified decision.
Qualified decision. So you have to do a little research, right?
So let me ask you a question. So a lot of the listeners, some of them are very impulsive.
Yeah.
And other listeners, they're very conservative on some ends. How would you recommend for some of those compulsive, impulsive, crazy guys or crazy girls to kind of slow down and do the research? Because for example, I have two brothers. Right? One of them is a very impulsive. Like he makes decisions very rapidly. The other one is more conservative and has more of a logical, data kind of, eccentric kind of mindset. Like he kind of studies everything before he makes a decision. How do we get them both to be in the middle, so to say, where they actually have the logic, but they also have the emotion to kind of make that decision? If that makes sense. Yeah. What are some key steps that someone can make to actually help themselves either get more conservative or get more impulsive? I don't know, it's a deep question.
Yeah, I mean, I would say number one, you should take a brief pause before any big decision.
Pause, okay.
Just pause for a second because your emotions are naturally going to take over for the first couple minutes. And even after, say, an hour, your decision's going to be potentially very different. Now, sometimes you don't have that time. Sometimes you have to make a quick decision.
Correct. Which is why
otherwise, and business a lot of times is you got to make a quick decision. Otherwise, you're going to be left out. So you just have to go off of past experience, that gut feeling, the information that you have on hand, but you have to be confident with your decision, and you have to be able to admit when you're wrong and then pivot, right? So the great business people are able to pivot. They don't lock themselves into they make decisions, but they make flexible decisions where they don't put themselves into a corner where they can't get out of it.
And you know what's crazy? That's why I rent. Somebody asked me really recently, why don't you buy a house? I'm like, first of all, it's a dumb decision. It's not an asset. It doesn't pay me every month. That's number one. Number two, it stops me from being mobile. It stops me from being flexible and being able to pivot and make decisions quickly. Like, for example, right now, we're expanding into the Miami area, which is an exciting thing. As a matter of fact, you know what's crazy? My first 9 months of my business, I had an office in Miami, and we had to shut it down because the people in that office were not leading it properly. So I had to, I lost money in that investment. It didn't really pan out the way I wanted it to, but I learned a lot. And I learned a little bit about the market. I learned a little bit about how to deal with teams that are distant from you. And one of the things that I learned is that, you want to be able to be nimble, being flexible.
Yeah.
And me buying a house is dumb because it sucks you to one spot and you can't be nimble. That's why, I'm renting an apartment. So making those kind of decisions are very key to know, okay, is this decision going to get me more flexibility? Or is this decision going to get me fucking stuck to the ground? Now, certain things you want to be stuck to the ground. Like, for example, the industry that I'm in right now, I want to be stuck to this. Like, this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. I know that. I'm going to be making money through my sales and marketing companies. And then I'm going to take that money and funnel it through my real estate. That's the goal. That's the plan. I ain't changing that plan, okay? Because no one's going to ever say, oh, by the way, we don't need salespeople. I mean, they're always going to need people like us. And we're going to be the ones that are training them. We're going to be the ones that are going to helping them and build them up. And companies are always going to be looking for us. So that's what I decided to do, and I made a decision. Firm decision, I am moving out of this industry. Now, other decisions like what campaigns we're gonna do, that's a different story. I got certain campaigns that have come to my door and I said, no thank you, you're not paying enough. Oh, no thank you, the market is not good enough. But we're able to make those flexible decisions based on, on who we are and what we're all about. So I think that, in my opinion, a lot of people don't make decisions and they're afraid of making the wrong decisions. They're so scared of making decisions because they wanna make the right decision. And what I've learned is that you gotta make the decision, and then that decision becomes the right decision. And just stick with that decision.
I also think, I'd be mad at myself if I didn't add this. Stupid people make stupid decisions. Intelligent people make smart decisions for the most part, right? I'll give an example. There's certain things that people do, and I'm just like, are you stupid? I hate to say it like that.
Give me an example that you've seen in our industry.
Okay, I'll give an example, right? I don't really smoke weed, but let's just say I did, right? There's certain people I know that, like, if I was ever gonna smoke, I would make sure that it's in a situation, let's say a Saturday night, when I don't have to interact with any of my teammates. I don't necessarily have to react with anyone. I could just be home. I'm not gonna ever put myself into a situation that I'm gonna really regret later. Whereas sometimes people don't even think, they'll just fucking smoke before they come to the office or before they meet up with their team, and then they put themselves into a predicament. Don't be stupid. Be intelligent about certain things.
Like drinking before driving.
Yeah, or drinking before driving. Like, you're putting yourself in a position where you're liable to be fuck up or be extremely vulnerable.
Absolutely.
Or like,
that makes a lot of sense.
You got to be smart about certain things, right? Like, you got to hold yourself accountable too for your own decisions. Like, be 100% responsible for the outcomes too. Like, you have to, if you fuck up, then be okay with that, with whatever the consequences are. Don't blame other people.
You know what's crazy? Most people when they make decisions, they don't study the decision. When I say study the decision, they don't study what the decision is going to actually create for them. Like, for example, think about what you just said. Smoking weed, number one, is stupid. Drinking alcohol, for me, no, stupid. But let's say you do that. Why would you do a stupid thing like that? Number one, in general. But number two, if you are going to do that, why would you want to do that in let's say a business, an office? If you're a dentist, why the hell are you smoking before you get to the office? Imagine your dentist working on you. He's all hot. You know what I'm saying? Or imagine he's drunk. Imagine he's tipsy. All these dumb decisions that people make. Now, you said something very powerful, that stupid people make stupid decisions, smart people make smart decisions. But I also believe that stupid people sometimes end up making smart decisions by accident, and sometimes smart people make stupid decisions by accident as well.
Every clock is right at least twice a day.
2:15? Well, 3:15?
Listen.
I don't know.
You're gonna make some smart decisions,
I don't know.
right?
Pass my head.
No, that's fine. It's a Jay-Z line. What's up? But
he's a billionaire.
Billionaire as of today. Smart decision. So, but here's the thing. Nobody ever nobody's life. There's certain decisions that can ruin your life in one bad decision. There's other decisions that is just a combination of bad decisions over time, and you find yourself all fucked up.
Let me ask you a question. How many decisions have we made in this? How many? I want to give a.
Every little thing is a decision. Just some are big.
Check this out. I want to give someone a $50 bonus.
They count how many times we said.
If they count how many times we said decision. Do me a favor and send me a little message on YouTube or Instagram.
It's a smart decision, trust me.
It's a very smart decision. You made $50. All right, Eric's paying for it. Okay.
Decision.
So that's his decision. So anyway, I believe that we're gonna make the right decisions. I hope you guys make the right decisions. I hope everybody makes decisions and makes them right. Because at the end of the day, the reason why I'm at where I'm at today, the reason why I was able to create some sort of freedom for my life and create a surplus of income and choices for myself was because of certain decisions that I made. And I'm gonna give you a list of those decisions before we kind of end out here and close out. One of those decisions was I eliminated drugs and alcohol out of my body. Number one, I never allowed them in my system. And number two, if I was around it, I stayed away from that bullshit. Because I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna do that to myself. Okay? That bullshit, right? Number two, I made a decision at a very young age that I was gonna be wealthy. That was a decision I made. I didn't know how, I didn't know who, I didn't know where. I just said, I'm going to be wealthy. Nothing will stop me. I said, God, please help me. Number three, I made a decision at 19 years old that I'm going to impact people. I didn't know how, where, what, who, when. I didn't even believe in myself, but I made a decision, and that decision paid off in so many different ways. Number four decision I made. I made a decision.
I made that. That was a decision.
I'm about to make a decision to punch you in the neck. That's what I'm about to do. Four decisions. Okay?
Decisions.
Decision. You want these guys? The woman's gonna be counting as we're working really hard to find out how many decisions we made in here. Okay. But the fourth decision that I made was I said I'm not only gonna get wealthy, but I'm also gonna get wealthy by helping other people get wealthy as well. That was my decision I made. Okay. So think about some of those decisions. Those are young decisions that I made 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 9 years ago that I said I'm gonna change my life. As a matter of fact, one of the other decisions I made that really helped me was I was always going to be in physical shape by going to the gym. And I've been going to the gym for 10 years. I've been going to the gym for a decade. Why? Because I made a decision. And when you make a decision, you keep with that decision, you stay consistent and committed to that decision, what ends up happening, life starts to unravel so many blessings that you can't even imagine. So I hope you guys make the right decision. Hopefully, you make the right decision by clicking on your Instagram and subscribing and follow Michael Barayev, okay? Hopefully you make the decision to subscribe on my YouTube channel and hopefully make another decision by sharing this video or this audio with a friend, colleague, or a family member.
And I have one more decision. I have one analogy to leave the crowd with to help them to think. Decision. Decision is simply a change of direction, whether it be a small change or a big change, right? And that's the difference between a big decision and a small decision. But like I always say, direction is more important than speed. It's not necessarily how fast you're going, but it's the direction that you're doing it. So please make sure your decisions are putting you in the direction that you want, and make sure that if you get off track, then you make a decision to put you back on track. It doesn't necessarily matter how fast you're doing it, but what matters most is that you're doing it in the right direction.
Absolutely. All right, guys, have a good one.